And we are back with the fifth and the final segment of the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. And in this final segment, I'm going to be talking about... Hold on just one second. Let me just get centered real quick. There we go. I'm going to be talking about an NBA player who I feel doesn't deserve to win an MVP in a specific year. So again, we're doing the 90s. So the year that we're on is 1993. And the player that ended up winning the MVP in 1993, who I think shouldn't have won the MVP that year, was Charles Barkley. Now, obviously, Charles Barkley, this is another MVP where a lot of people feel like Michael Jordan was robbed. It's another MVP that's popular that, again, the MVP that MJ won in 98, probably he shouldn't have won that, but a lot of people also think that Michael Jordan should have won an MVP in 1997 as opposed to Karl Malone getting the MVP. I mentioned in the last segment how MJ shouldn't have won the MVP in 1998, but I did also mention how in 97 he should have won the MVP, and the same story applies here in the 1993 MVP race. Now, again, this is like Michael Jordan we're talking about, so it's like this is obviously like the big time era where Michael Jordan was universally known as the best player in the NBA, but mainly because of voting fatigue, a lot of voters didn't really want to continuously vote for somebody like Michael Jordan year in and year out. And it's one of those things that plagues a lot of NBA athletes in this league, voter fatigue. Like, a lot of people, they get bored of voting for the same player every single year, and it's like, they like seeing a different winner. And Barkley, he had a lot of things going for this MVP race. I'm not saying that he's not a considerable winner for this award, but a lot of people mainly remember this MVP as one of the MVPs that Michael Jordan was robbed in. Now, Barkley this season, he sort of rewrote the narrative of him being a team cancer, because back on Philly, a lot of people didn't really, consider him as a team caliber player, and a lot of people didn't really think he could be a very dominant force in the league and take a team to a pretty decent record in the regular season, as well as a pretty decent record in the postseason. Like, nobody really expected that coming in from him. And the Suns, they ended up getting the best record in the entire regular season in the NBA, and they were a very competent team. The Bulls, they weren't really as dominant in this regular season as they were in previous regular seasons, but for example, in 1991 and in 1992, you could argue that they had a lot better regular seasons than in this one, but Michael Jordan, again, this is still the MVP we're talking about. Michael Jordan was clearly the better player in this season. And, Charles Barkley, he averaged 26, 12, and 5 for the season, which, it's very, very impressive. I'm not saying that it is not impressive at all. And, those numbers, they're definitely MVP caliber numbers. I'm not saying that they're not, but Michael Jordan, he was averaging almost 33 points per game. He was also averaging 7 rebounds, as well as being able to average almost 6 assists for that year, and was also able to account for far better advanced stats than Charles Barkley in that season. And so if I was to give the MVP vote to anyone in 1993, I would give it to Michael Jordan. And what makes it even crazier is that Michael Jordan, despite the ridiculous season that he had, he didn't even finish second in the MVP race, which it baffles me how he didn't finish second. But Hakeem, for the Houston Rockets, Hakeem Olajuwon, he actually ended up finishing second in the MVP race for this year. And his averages for the season are nothing short of impressive. He averaged 26 points, 13 rebounds, 3 assists, 1.8 steal, and he was also able to average 4.2 blocks. Again, 4.2 blocks. That is a lot of blocks to average through the span of playing 82 games. And I mean, I guess like when you think of the defense that brings, 4.2 blocks is ridiculous. And it makes sense how he was like second in the voting. But again, I would have much rather seen, and I would have much rather preferred having Michael Jordan as the winner of the MVP, because let's face it, we know he was the best player in 1993. There's no question about that. It doesn't matter whether you think of the regular season, whether you think of the postseason, Michael Jordan was clear-cut the best player. And again, Hakeem and his averages, playing 82 games, averaging 26 points, 13 rebounds, 4 blocks, along 52% shooting from the field is very impressive. But again, would have much rather liked to seen the vote go to Michael Jordan and winning the MVP in this specific race. So that is all that I have for this segment, and that's all that I have for the podcast. So thank you so much for tuning in to the GSMC Basketball Podcast presented by the GSMC Sports Network. Your support means a lot to us, so remember to subscribe to the show, leave a positive review. It really does make a difference. We also invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. I'm almost done with this MVP list. Let me know if you would like me to talk about a little bit more. Maybe I can do a finals MVP list. Like maybe I can talk about players who I think maybe deserve to win the finals MVP over a specific player. Maybe I can talk a little bit about that. And but let me know in the comments what you guys would like to hear. And again, we invite you to follow us on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram for more content and updates. As usual, we love to hear what you guys have to say during the show. And whether you have a burning question, hot take for the game, something you've been dying to say, we are all ears. And if you really want to make sure that your comment or question gets noticed, you can go ahead and use Super Chat. You could just hit the $sign below the chat box, send in your message, and it's guaranteed to get featured on the show. It's also a great way to support our channel. And if Super Chat isn't really your thing, you can always use the link displayed below the ticker on every show segment, gsmcpodcast.net. Really helps the show. Either one of those makes the show much more interactive between myself and you guys. That's all I have for you today on this show for today. Thank you so much for tuning in. I am your host, Nelson, and as always, take care.
Let's go. I wake up to a little bit of drool on my pillow, feel like it's gonna be a bad day. Yeah, I'm tired of shit, and the coffee ain't hit yet. Damn, ain't that great. I don't want